there. Today we're very fortunate to meet Mr. Marcus Geisler, who's the CEO of the Eastern Metropolitan Regional Council in Western Australia, formerly the chair of the Western Australian Waste Management Association, and really has been spearheading the fantastic FOGO system here in Western Australia, which removes our organic waste stream from the main waste stream and turns it into compost and energy. So we're really delighted to have Marcus with us today and to be able to have a chat with him about this great scheme in Western Australia, a great leap forward for zero waste.
The FOGO is the food and garden organics recovery is the single biggest opportunity from waste from the household. Because in the rubbish bin or the rubbish we produce at the household, which is about 600 kilos per household per annum, 300 kilos of that is actually organic material. And Mother Nature deals perfectly with organic material, and it's fully circular and it's able to be recovered 100%. So why look at smaller waste streams in a household? So what we've done is that with our 6-member councils we've made an agreement, and it's actually based from guidance from the state waste strategy that was launched by the Premier Mark McGowan in February 2019, that every household in Perth and Peel, which is 1 million households, will have a 3-bin collection system. And one of these bins will be a FOGO bin. So it's the yellow lid bin for the dry recyclables, for the containers, the plastic, the glass, aluminium cans, paper, cardboard, and steel cans. The lime green lid bin for the food and garden organics, and then there's the red lid bin for the residual waste. So it's a fantastic initiative because consistent collection systems, so every household will have the same collection system, then can have a consistent messaging behind it. So it's going to be way easier to demystify what goes in what bin and to maximize recovery. But it all starts with avoidance. Avoidance is better than dealing. If we avoid generating waste in the first place, we don't have to deal with it.
That's right.
So that's the best way to manage waste, to avoid it. But we cannot avoid all waste, so I think FOGO is a very big step forward. And we are currently going through, so we've got an interim trial facility, which we set up for 2 of our member councils. It's Bessendine, they started in July last year. Bayswater will join them in March this year, 2021. And then now we're going to the market for the permanent facility with a tender, which we hope the capacity will be between 55,000 and 100,000 tonnes per annum. So this facility could cater for 1/3 of all the FOGO material generated in the Perth and Peel region.
For those that don't know, in Western Australia, regional councils are set up to manage numerous councils' waste management. So in the East Metropolitan region, there's about 6 or 7 councils. There's a Western Metropolitan Regional Council, a Southern Metropolitan Regional Council. So in Western Australia, regional councils joined together the local governments in that area to maximise the benefit of organised waste management. So when we're talking about FOGO in the East Metro region, that's what we mean. It's so exciting for residents, Marcus, but what about the other areas where food and organic waste comes from, like industry and business, and we're still seeing large volumes of that waste going to landfill?
That's a lost opportunity. So what we're looking at is also capturing commercial food and garden organics, especially food waste.
Yeah.
Because in canteens and in hospitals, universities, so they generate single streams of food waste. And food waste is so easy to deal with, because the majority of food waste is actually water. Lettuce is 99% water. So we can evaporate the water, we can sanitize the organic matter, and then we can give back that structural material and improve the soil health in Perth and Peel. And I don't know whether but Bessendine, which is one of our member councils, actually the sand in Western Australia is named after, it's called Bessendine Sands, and it's officially the worst sand, so the poorest sand in the world. So here's an opportunity to fix that. So that's the next step. So we want to look after our member councils first. And why we're starting with the households first is that because it's also an education tool. Because if the householders understand, so the community starts understanding that it's actually a resource and it's easy to recover, then we can change their behavior to put the organics in the FOGO bin, in the lime green lid bin. We can then take that behavior and take it to the workplace.
Yes.
So it's not just the technology to process it and to recover the product. It's also the education and the engagement of the community to put the right stuff in the right bin.
Right. That's really exciting to hear because a lot of people have compost bins, worm farms, and put very little in their green lidded bin like we do at our house. And I'm constantly getting feedback about what about the other bigger waste streams. Is there any time frame on that? I mean, I understand that there's an educational phase going on here, but do you know if there's a time frame for that kind of thing? Because there's a few pressing issues in Western Australia, like the impending incinerators, like the Prime Minister's waste export ban. Waste is rapidly becoming an issue of not only national but international significance because of it's a key driver of climate change.
It's an interesting question because we all have different drivers, and I think the community, and you've seen that over the last couple of years with the war on waste and the organisation you're part of, is that the community they demand change. They want to see a different attitude. We want to move towards zero waste, which is the ultimate outcome, but at least ensure that the waste is seen as a resource and it keeps in a circular economy. Now, industry is driven by different drivers and normally by money. So, and that's why the landfill levy comes in. So there's a different, so I think it's more the carrot approach with the community, and it's more the stick approach with the industry. So if we just increase the cost of landfilling, then industry will fall in because they'll look for the cheapest way. So they look at minimizing the waste, and then they look at having the cheapest processing cost option. I think there's different drivers, but this is all in our waste strategy. So I invite you to look at the Waste Avoidance and Resource Recovery Strategy 2030, and even more importantly, there's actually an action plan into this. So this is a state government document, and it's actually a government-wide document. This is not just the Minister for the Environment that wants this to happen. It's actually the Minister for Planning, the Minister for Finance. So it's actually pushed, and actually the Premier, Mark McGowan, made this one of his top 12 objectives whilst he's in power.
Right.
So it's fantastic.
So I'm really relieved to hear that there's a cross-sector approach to the issue of waste. And as I mentioned, the Prime Minister's announcement of a waste export ban. Could you give us your opinion on the waste export ban and any risks you see for Australia, for Western Australia, how the FOGO system might feed into that?
Yeah, so FOGO, one of our approaches actually in the strategy was local solutions. And FOGO was the easiest one to local solution because everybody needs soil conditioner and structural material for soil health. So that's a no-brainer. And if you have chooks or a compost or worm farm at home, keep doing that because then it never enters the waste stream because it's automatically done. So that's good. The next thing is obviously the products that we've been exporting, and that's not fair for the rest of the world. You know, we have to look after our own waste on our own little island here, and so these bans that are coming into place for paper and cardboard, for glass, for plastics, rubber, that's fantastic, and it needed that federal push, and it's happening now. And we will see investment in infrastructure happening in Western Australia and in Australia. So that's going to be an automatic outcome. I think sometimes the government has to take a lot of initiative and be brave and courage, and actually put these bans in place. Like a ban on electronic waste to landfill. I mean, that should happen now. So they're simple mechanisms, but there's another side of the coin. You know, if we process on shore, we need to have the material has to be designed to be recycled. Because if it's not designed to be recycled, then we just process it and we pull it apart and there's no market for it. And that's another side of it. So the other side of the coin is that we have to ensure that we buy recycled. We have to make sure that all the products we produce and that it has recycled content. And for example, in the Netherlands, I'm from the Netherlands originally, there was, this is 30 years ago, in road construction there's a requirement to have 50% recycled content. And by doing that, and in Japan, the car manufacturing industry, they demand all the plastics that are in the dashboard, it requires 15%, 15% of recycled plastics. So hereby you create a pull mechanism in the market, because by just recycling it, so first we have to make sure we design something that it can be recycled, then we have to collect it and keep it clean and process it and have a secondary raw material, but then we have to make sure there's a requirement of using these materials in products we manufacture.
And there lies the problem, because that's a whole different sector, the plastics and chemicals sector, and their slow approach to redesigning their products. One of the other things that we've seen across Australia since the waste export ban is an explosion in waste fires and waste dumping. That concerns me greatly. So do you think there should be a time frame attached to this? Because the out of control waste fires that are happening all over Australia are significant environmental, health and justice impacts to those communities. And
I don't know whether it's related or it's a result. To me it looks like housekeeping and how you manage your business, but also education of the community, because a lot of fires and trucks, for example, has nothing to do with the collection companies, because there's lithium batteries in the waste, which there shouldn't be. It's hazardous waste. So we're in this together. You cannot say industry is doing that wrong and communities. We just have to make sure that we all have a role to play, and if we don't work together, we will not succeed. It all comes back to knowledge. It's also in the strategy. It's knowledge of what do I do with the waste, how do I treat it, how do I avoid waste. What's the infrastructure that's in place, so that's the bins, the trucks, the processing facilities, and what are the incentives to actually do that. And another approach we took in the state waste strategy is that we are all waste generators, but we are not all waste managers. So we need different actions and different strategies for the generator, you and me and everybody, or for managers, and different focus on that. But we have to step up compliance. If we don't create a level playing field and we condone bad behavior, we will always have people that run under the radar, and they'll be a detriment to the industry going forward. So we just have to step up compliance.
well, we've heard that first from Marcus Geisler, industry and government. It's time to step up compliance and better waste management in Western Australia. Thank you so much, Marcus.